Welcome back to the podcast. I'm Monica Brooks, and today we're diving into a topic that many of us struggle with: how to offer support when someone we know is going through a difficult time. Whether that's someone you know personally or perhaps even a coworker, the words we use matter. But sometimes we don't know what to say or how to help. So if you found yourself at a loss for words during these moments, then this episode is for you. Let's talk about finding the right words during difficult times. Welcome to the Becoming a Better You podcast. My name is Monica Brooks, and I'm a self-improvement enthusiast who is eager to share tips and strategies to help you become the best version of yourself. As an inspirational speaker who transitioned from a corporate career, I'm here to guide you on your journey towards enhancing your overall human experience. If you're ready to take the first step towards becoming the best version of yourself, then you're in the right place. Let's get started. Whether it's a friend, a family member, or even a colleague, when people are hurting, our instinct is to fix things. We want to offer solutions or try to find something to say that's comforting. But sometimes, even though we have the best intentions, we can inadvertently say the wrong thing. And that's why we're talking about it on today's podcast. How can we become better in the way that we support others who are going through a really hard time? They could be dealing with an illness, maybe an illness of someone that's close to them. They could be dealing with loss or any other challenge they're facing. We want to become a better person when we support others. Let me start by saying that I was that person who likely said the thing that wasn't so helpful. But through my own cancer diagnosis, I paid attention to what helped me, but also what things to avoid saying. And I'm going to talk about those things toward the end of the podcast. Now, I don't share these things with you to cast shame in some way if you've said these things or if you continue to say them. That's totally your choice. I just want to share with you what I've learned and how we can do better in supporting people who are going through a hard time. So today, I'm going to offer some practical tips, some insights, and some phrases that you can use to support someone who's struggling. We'll talk about how to be present, how to validate feelings, and how to offer meaningful support without feeling like you need to solve their problems. Let's start by acknowledging that it's difficult to know what to say. Often we worry about saying the wrong thing, or we feel uncomfortable in someone else's pain. And I kind of want to sit with that phrase for a moment. We may feel uncomfortable in someone else's pain. What does that really mean? Well, many of us have been taught the value of positivity and problem solving over sitting with a negative emotion. So when we don't have the right thing to say or do, it can make it uncomfortable for us. It's an unfamiliar space for many, where silence and empathy often feel inadequate, even though they're often the most powerful responses. And I think it's completely human to want to avoid these feelings of discomfort. But the truth is, being present during tough times is often more important than having perfect words. I want to share a few insights with you. Sometimes the pressure to fix things makes us say things like, "It'll get better soon," or "at least it's not fill in the blank." When we say things like "at least," we're basically saying, well, it could be worse. And that can be really insensitive to people who are going through a hard time. At least is a term I think we should always use with caution because it can minimize the pain someone is experiencing. It's that look on the bright side kind of positivity, and it can dismiss what they're going through. Another thing to realize is that silence is powerful too. You don't always have to fill the space with words. Sometimes just being there is enough. This is something I've had to learn how to do, and that is just allow people to talk, to cry, or to say nothing at all. Because I always feel like I'm this fixer and I want to help and I want to say something right. I want to help them through the emotion. But now I no longer try to fill the silence. I don't rush to get off the phone because the silence feels awkward. I allow my friends and I to just be. Learning to be still and sit in someone's sorrow, sadness, or suffering is really helpful. You don't have to say anything at all. And believe me, they will feel your support, whether it's over the phone, maybe even FaceTime, or in person. Now, let me talk to you about some phrases that can really make a difference. These are words that acknowledge the other person's pain or offer comfort without minimizing their experience. So I'm going to share with you 4 different things that you can say. First, I'm so sorry you're going through this. This is a simple statement that shows empathy without judgment. It acknowledges their struggle and expresses concern. Number 2, I'm here for you no matter what. This phrase offers unconditional support, letting the person know they're not alone. But this is actually twofold, because the first part is saying it. The other part is following through, showing up for someone, and being there like you said you were going to be. But what does showing up look like? Here's a few examples. I'd love to do something for you. Would you be okay if I came over and sat with you if you're feeling up to it? What's a good day to drop off a meal? You see, that's way better than saying something like, let me know if you need anything. I think that phrase is part of our society's vocabulary, and we may not mean anything by it, but that doesn't say action. It puts the responsibility on the other person who's going through something hard to think of what to do, to then reach out to you, to plan and follow up with you. Again, it's something our society says because sometimes we don't know what else to say and it just rolls off the tongue. Offering and saying something like, can I drop off dinner Thursday at 6 p.m. is super specific. That can help them make fewer decisions, and it's easier to say yes to something like that instead of having to have them think of an idea for you to support them. But at the same time, they may not truly need anything, and that's okay too. So if for some reason you get rejected and they don't take you up on any of your offers, don't take it personally. They might really be okay. The third phrase we can use to really make a difference is, it's okay to feel this way. Validating someone's emotions is very important. To validate someone's emotions, you have to be willing to actively listen to them and to stay in their story. And I'll be talking about what that means shortly. You don't have to say things like, well, look on the bright side, or try to stay positive. Those phrases are not validating. Really listen to them. Let people feel how they want to feel, whether they're having a good day or a bad day. Now, this last phrase can be a difficult question for them to answer, but it's a powerful question to show that you want to be there for them. You could ask them, how can I support you? Again, a lot of times they may not know how to answer that, but you can offer ideas for support. What I'd like to do is drop off a meal for you. What's a good day? Or I'd like to take your kiddo so you have some time to yourself. Is there a good day for that? When I had my surgery during my cancer diagnosis, our neighbors came and mowed our grass without us even asking, which was pretty amazing to come home to that. Or depending on the season, you could just go out and shovel someone's snow for them. As previously mentioned, be specific if you have an idea. Define an action you want to take, especially if they don't know how to receive support. As an example, recently, one of our friends was diagnosed with cancer. We offered our help and they said they were fine, they didn't need any meals, they had their family and they were taken care of. But we still wanted to do something for them. So my son made her a card. We got her this healthy green juice after her surgery, and we dropped off a small lunch on their porch. Now, they could have dumped the juice or thrown away the lunch, but it was the action that was meaningful. So even when we don't know what to do or say, actions go a long way. Now, let's talk about some phrases that we might want to avoid. The first one is, everything happens for a reason. Now, if you've listened to my podcast episode, I recently talked about this and my belief whether I think everything happens for a reason or not. But generally speaking, you might want to avoid this saying. You may feel like you're offering comfort, but it's actually dismissive, especially if the person is in deep pain or confused as to why they're going through this difficult time. I think sometimes that phrase gets said because we don't know how to make sense of the bad things people go through. So it's just best to avoid that phrase. Another phrase to avoid is, I know how you feel. All right, now I really want to go in depth on this one because it isn't your job to relate to someone's experience. It's to make them feel seen. So even if you've gone through something similar, everyone's experience is different. Earlier I mentioned, stay in their story. What I mean by that is, it's not about you. So you don't have to relate to what they're going through or talk about someone you might know who's going through the same thing, even if it's you. Acknowledge their unique story. Listen without interrupting, because often people aren't looking for advice or someone to relate to. They just need someone to listen. What are some other phrases you think should be avoided? Let me know. I'd love to hear from you. I want to share something more personal with you about someone who is grieving and suffering a loss of a loved one. This is something I learned firsthand because I felt supported, and it was so impactful that I made a note to myself to remember this so that I know what to say to someone who is going through a loss. This happened a few months ago when I was in Colorado and I was rock climbing with other cancer survivors. It was a really amazing trip, but my heart was so heavy because I had my friend Corrine on my mind. My friend Corrine passed away from breast cancer back in January of this year, and I have become very close with her family, and I have learned a lot about the grieving process through them. So I talked to Corrine's sister that morning in Colorado when I was just very emotional, and she said, you need to talk about her. You need to bring this up. You're in the right space with people who get what you're going through. So I opened up to this group, which was really hard for me because I don't like to get emotional in front of people, especially people I just met. But I shared how I was feeling about my friend Corrine and missing her and how hard it was to be experiencing this wonderful thing without her here. And they gave me space to talk about it. But someone asked me a really powerful question I will never forget. And this is the question I'm going to use when someone I know is grieving a loss. He said, would you like to talk about her? And I was so relieved when he said that because I'm like screaming, like I want to share her with the world. I want to tell everybody about her. And so I said, yes, I would. So giving people the space to talk about someone they've lost is an amazing way to support someone. And maybe they're not ready to talk about that person, and that's okay too. But giving them permission to say their name, to share a story, can really help them. So now, when I talk to Corrine's mom, I simply ask, do you want to talk about Corrine? The first time I asked her, she started crying because no one had asked her that question before. And she said, yes, I do. So I will always offer space for people to share a story about their loved one with me. And I know that is an amazing way to support them. As we wrap up, remember that offering support doesn't require perfect words. What matters most is showing up for the people you care about, being present and letting them know you're not alone and mean it. You don't have to have all the answers. You just have to be there. Thank you so much for listening. If you found this episode helpful, be sure to share it with someone who might need it. And remember, we all go through difficult times, but having someone by our side makes all the difference. Until next time.